Wisdom shines in talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. My comments bring this profound wisdom into your experience. I'm Richard. Welcome. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Today is from Talk 268, Part 2. Dr. said, how to discern the ego from the perfect I. Maharshi, that which rises and falls is the transient I, that which has neither origin nor end is the permanent I consciousness. Syed, will continuous thought on the self make the mind more and more refined so that it will not think of anything but the highest? Maharshi, there is the peaceful mind which is the supreme. When the same becomes restless, it is afflicted by thoughts. Mind is only the dynamic power, Shakti, of the self. Syed, are the sheaths material and different from the self? Maharshi, there is no difference between matter and spirit. Modern science admits that all matter is energy. Energy is power or force, Shakti. Therefore, all are resolved in Shiva and Shakti, that is, the self and the mind. The kosas are mere appearances. There is no reality in them as such. In this talk, Dr. Syed continues his dialogue with Ramana Maharshi. First, Dr. Syed asks how to discern the ego from the perfect I. Ramana Maharshi's response is profound yet simple. He explains that the transient I is the ego which rises and falls based on circumstances and experiences. The ego comes and goes. For example, it comes in the waking state and in dreams and goes in deep sleep. In contrast, the permanent I consciousness has no origin and has no end. It is eternal and unchanging. It is what is always within yourself. What is always? By observing the nature of the I within yourself, you can discern between the ego and your true self. The consciousness is never sensed or known as an object of the mind. You can and do know it, though. You know it by being it, by direct experience, not ever by thought. Next, Dr. Syed asks a follow-up question. Will continuous thought on the self make the mind more and more refined so that it will not think of anything but the highest? Ramana Maharshi confirms that continuous contemplation of the self leads to a state of supreme peace and refinement of the mind. When the mind is tranquil, it abides in the highest state of consciousness, free from worldly thoughts. For contemplation to be continuous, it has to move deeper than just the mental level, though. No thought is continuous. Being is continuous. When the mind becomes restless due to unresolved tendencies, it becomes entangled in thoughts. Ramana emphasizes that the mind is merely a dynamic power, Shakti, or energy of the self. The mind is a manifestation of the self's creative power, or Shakti, and Shakti represents the dynamic aspect of consciousness, the energy that animates and sustains the universe. Just as electricity powers various appliances, Shakti empowers the functioning of the mind, enabling thoughts, emotions, and perceptions to arise. Ramana teaches that while the mind appears to be distinct and separate, it is ultimately inseparable from the self, much like waves are inseparable from the ocean. The mind, as Shakti, functions within the realm of duality, creating the illusion of individuality and separateness. However, beneath the fluctuations of the mind lies the eternal, unchanging essence of the self. When Ramana instructs you to hold to the self, he points to this unchanging essence. Next, Dr. Syed asks, are the she's material and different from the self? In response, Ramana speaks of the unity of matter and spirit. He explains that there is no inherent difference between matter and spirit. Drawing from modern scientific understanding, he equates matter with energy. He emphasizes that all manifestations, including the she's, kosas, are just Shiva and Shakti. In other words, the self and the mind. They are ultimately resolved in the unity of the self. The kosas are mere appearances with no independent reality. This dialogue encapsulates key principles of Advaita Vedanta: the nature of the ego, the importance of self-inquiry, and the unity of matter and spirit. Ramana Maharshi's teachings guide you on a path of self-knowledge and self-realization, using self-inquiry as a means to the recognition of the eternal I consciousness beyond the transient ego, and to the knowledge that you are the self, and yourself and the self are one and the same. So inquire, know yourself, and be always free and at peace. These videos bring Ramana's teachings into your direct experience. Click subscribe to see more. Click thumbs up to like, and send questions and start a dialogue with a comment.